What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now on today's episode, I'm going to show you guys how to detail an engine. Now, case in point, my 2002 Acura RSX. I haven't cleaned this engine in about 2 or 3 years. It's pretty shameful, but this is going to be a prime example of before and after. So I'm going to show you all the steps involved, materials needed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on cleaning the engine bay. Okay, first things first, let's take a look at the materials needed for this project. Now the first thing, you're going to need a detail brush set. So basically this is a 5-piece. I bought this online for about $6 shipped. It's basically just an inexpensive brush set with some firm bristles. So as I said before, you can get this for about under $6 online shipped. And we got some simple green all-purpose cleaner right here. You don't want to use gunk engine degreaser. That will basically strip off the finish of your engine bay. That's a big no-no. And then we got some cheap plastic bags here. We're going to cover up the alternator and the battery area. And I've also got a respirator, because whenever I spray simple green, I start coughing up, so it's not a good thing. There's got to be some chemicals in here, so better safe than sorry. Personal protective gear. So I'll be wearing this mask when I'm spraying the simple green. And last but not least, a garden hose with water supply. Okay, let's take a look at this filthy dirty engine bay. This is my 2002 Acura RSX Type S with about 268,000 miles on it. Now, as I said before, haven't cleaned this engine bay in about 2 or 3 years. Guilty as charged, I know. I just don't know how to clean an engine bay, and I've read some instructions online, so we're gonna give this our best attempt. So let's just give you some close-up views. This is how much dirt and debris there is on this engine bay. I mean, look at all the dust right here. That's nasty right there. And this is a JDM valve cover. As you can see, the coating is actually starting to chip away from the finish. That's just too bad because it's an authentic JDM Honda valve cover that I bought for this car. As you can see on the aluminum intake right there, it's got some dirt and debris and whatnot. Plastic intake cover. I actually might go ahead and take the 2 10mm bolts off here for the plastic intake cover and pull this thing off, maybe clean underneath there. So I actually might take that approach. As you can see, you got the intake tube covered in dust, intake box dirty, fuse box is dirty. Same thing here, strut tower, got a big shelf for dust and dirt. Okay, so moving on for preparation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my plastic bag and I'm going to cover up the alternator as best I can. I'm going to take a second plastic bag and I'm going to cover the battery as best I can because I don't want water on electrical items. So once I have those things covered up for the battery and the alternator with the plastic bags, I'm going to go ahead and take my garden hose and just kind of soak the engine with some water. I was told not to spray simple green directly on a dry engine bay, so I'm not going to take that approach. So I'm going to get this thing, wet this thing down. And most important thing is, don't do this when the engine's hot. Make sure you do this on a cold engine. You don't want to damage your engine block by cleaning a hot engine. So anyways, wet the engine down, and then we'll go ahead and spray some simple green all over this engine, and then we'll take our brushes and we'll start irritating some of the dirt areas, you know, such as some of the strut tower, you know, over here on the motor mount, you know, over here on the intake manifold and whatnot. I'm not going to repeat all the engine parts, but kind of get the idea. So as I stressed before, make sure you do this on a cold engine. Don't do this on a hot motor because you don't want to ruin your motor. Okay, let's go ahead and take our plastic bags, cover up the battery and the alternator, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, we're just about wrapped up on the RSX K20 engine cleaning. Now I can definitely tell a difference from when we got started to where we're at right now. Went ahead, took the plastic bag off the battery, took the plastic bag off the alternator, and then basically took a rag and dried up, you know, these paint areas right here on the strut tower, and then right here on the fenders, dried off the airbox, fuse cover, and then obviously that opposite side strut tower and that fender as well. And as you can see right here with the OEM valve cover from the Type R Integra over in Japan, I bought this valve cover probably like maybe 3 months after I bought the car. So anyways, it's got some miles under its belt, but sadly the finish is just starting to chip right off. Even though it's OEM Honda, you know, it just happens. So I don't know, I'll probably take this thing off, have it sandblasted and repowder coated, I don't know, or maybe I'll just buy a replacement depending on the cost. But it is what it is right now. When I put the intake manifold cover back on, it'll basically cover this area, go back down to the intake manifold right there. So essentially be able to see from here on up. Now, one important note to make you guys aware, most cars have intake manifold covers, like these plastic little decorative covers. Go ahead and take those things off once a year and just check underneath, because when I took mine off, you know, there's basically a bunch of accumulation of like acorns and little branch pieces and leaves and whatnot. So it's basically a sign of a rodent living in your engine bay, and you don't want that. You got a rodent living in your engine bay, they chew on your wires, oh, you're in a world of hurt. So just go ahead, pull off your intake manifold cover if you have one, and just do a yearly inspection. Now, usually this car sits in the garage the whole time, but I did have this car parked outside for about 2 years when I was restoring that '69 Corvette, so that's maybe when it happened. I guess I didn't take that intake manifold cover off by that time anyways. So just do yourself a favor, pull off your intake manifold cover and do a yearly inspection. And then we'll do some more video coverage once this engine bay fully dries, and hopefully you guys can see a difference from the camera. Alrighty guys, next day here, allowed the engine bay to fully dry, and as you can see, the results just speak for themselves. This engine bay is really clean. This is the first time I use that method with the bristle brush, simple green and scrubbed away. I usually basically just spray the engine down and just use a hose. I never actually used a bristle brush, but make sure you use a stiff bristle brush like I showed you before. That way it actually agitates all the dirt, and then you can basically just spray it clean. So that's basically all there is to it. Just, you know, emphasize, go ahead and cover up your electronics, you know, your battery, your alternator, and if you have an ECU engine, go ahead and cover that up as well. And then for those of you with intake manifold covers, go ahead and pop that out and see if there's any rodent nests underneath there. And it's also nice to clean underneath as well. And then for those of you with Acura RSXs, might be a good time to go inspect your hood hinge mount, because there's been situations where the sheet metal actually cracks and this thing will actually break free, and the hood will basically just slam against the windshield while you're driving. That's not a good thing. So just get in the habit of checking the mounts of where your hood latch mounts up to, which is basically this sheet metal right here. You can see that 10mm bolt right there, and that 10mm bolt right there. But I think this one looks good, but just don't be slamming the hoods down, because I guess that might break things. But anyways, back to the engine detail. What do you guys think? Think this made a big difference from what you saw yesterday with those dirty, dusty pictures? But you know, I can tell you right now, I'm really happy with the end result. And keep in mind, this is something you can do your own vehicle as well. All you need is a garden hose of water, simple green, those bristle brushes, and basically just spray it clean. I mean, that's all there is to it. Now, if you really wanted to get complex on dressing up your engine bay for like a car show or something, you can take some plastic dressing, you know, apply it on this piece right here, the air box, and obviously this fuse box cover, and that'll really make this engine bay pop. But I'm not entering this car in any car shows anytime soon, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip that step. Okay, now that this engine bay is totally cleaned up, I can go ahead and mark on my calendar in 12 months to go and repeat this process for next year, because I'm gonna go ahead and keep this engine bay as clean as possible. Alrighty guys, that wraps up the engine detail cleaning process on a car and truck. Now keep in mind, the process is relatively easy, but just make sure you do this on a cold engine. Now the process is relatively easy. You basically want to take a garden hose, spray down the engine, but make sure it's cold. Then you go ahead and take your simple green, spray down the engine as well. Take your firm bristle brush, just dab at it, and then go ahead and take your garden hose and rinse it off. And then go ahead, take some towels and dry up the paint areas, and there you have it. You got a fully detailed engine, And if you really want to get pretty, go ahead and use some plastic dressing on the air intake and whatnot. Now, if you guys have any questions on detailing a car or truck engine, please feel free to comment below and I'll do my best to answer all questions. And if you guys found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.